Keeping on Star Wars, though, we had Mando episode 2, or season
Yeah.
3, episode 2.
So good. So good.
Honestly, this season, I can already tell is going to be so fucking good.
Oh, 100%. This. Okay, so even though we're talking about Mando, I'm just gonna
Oh,
I'm gonna call myself out. I
awesome.
think we have been too forgiving of Marvel's CGI
Oh,
over the last couple of years, having watched these 2 episodes of The Mandalorian.
do you know what
I
it
don't. I
is?
still don't think Marvel deserves as much hate as they have got, but I am falling more onto the side of it's not been good enough.
I would agree. I think Marvel has lacked polish, which is what has caused. Like,
Yeah.
their CGI is not bad, but it always, there's small things that like make it seem. It's that thing where it only needs to be this. Like, you can have 90% of the VFX shots look flawless, but if there's one bad shot, everyone will spot it. It'll stick out like a sore thumb. Marvel's had too many of that issue where like something sticks out.
I think the moment I realized was as the starships come in over Mandalore and you see it cruising through the air. I didn't feel like I was watching anything CGI. It felt like I was literally
I said it
just
last week.
watching a plane.
I said it last week. The VFX guys on Mandalorian, who essentially, like, don't get me wrong, the volume was not like, it was a very brand new thing that they used for season 1, but they utilized that piece of equipment like to its full potential. Like, they use it in the best way possible. Marvel has, for whatever reason, they see this piece of tech, they're like, oh, I can make great things, it's great for CGI, yeah, we'll use it, but they don't know how that. It's like Mando's the expert using it. Marvel's like the person that's picked it up because they've heard it'll help reduce cost, and they think, oh, this will
100%.
make things look better. But yeah, I mean, this week's episode, the shot that really sells the VFX is when they land on Mandalore, and they have, obviously, all the sands have turned to the glass because of the plasma bombing. When they land, obviously you can see that the floor is all practical with the reflections, and you get the droid rolling over, and it's the fact that the reflections and the background, like, it looks seamless.
Yeah.
It's just so well done, and especially for this show, they really show it off with because Mando's suit's so reflective. Things like that are really hard to deal with in CGI. So like the volume is ideal for it. So then they lean into it. It's like, we're gonna make you really question what is CGI, because reflections are the hardest thing to fake, essentially.
I think the best way to that I've like can describe it is while watching Marvel stuff, yes, I'm aware it's CGI, but I'm like, okay, cool. I know it's not real, so it's fine. Whereas Mandalorian does have that moment where you're like, shit, where does the practical stop and the CGI begin?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, and that's why I'm not willing to say Marvel are dog shit and they should be embarrassed to have put it out. That's why I'm not going that far. But what I am saying is there's definitely headroom for them to improve and make it and bring that immersion back in. So that we're sitting there going, holy shit, did they actually build an Iron Man suit?
Yeah.
Did they actually make a shield bounce off 12 different things? Is that man actually flying? These, like, obviously we know they're not, but you want to question yourself at what point
Yeah.
does
Well, yeah,
it pivot from fake to real?
there's just so many ways that Mando utilizes that tech. And it's like this week's episode, like you said, there's the bit when they're flying into Mandalore through the storm cloud and then the
Yeah.
landing. Oh, visually, I thought it was stunning this week. We get like so there's lots of different like things that happened in this week. We opened with him going to I forget the town's name.
Mos Espa.
Yes, Mos Espa, and
Wait, is that Mos Espa or was that Mos Eisley?
I
Mos
I
Espa's Boba Fett, isn't it? So that might be Mos Eisley.
I forget. It's one of the Mosses. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Somewhere on
Um,
Tatooine.
yeah, it's like so that it's festival season, which
Yeah.
we can see cars racing. By the way, pod racing was done for the festival, so it's like it's kind of hints at pod racing going on. You get the
Give me
mechanic.
pod racing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Next week is Mando having to pod race to get baby formula for Grogu.
Imagine. We got the mechanic one absolutely ripping off a guy.
She's also quickly becoming one of my favourite side characters.
Yeah, she's great. And I love that she speaks Jawa.
Mm-hmm.
It's so great with that transition to talk to Mando and then she just instantly starts speaking fluent Jawa at them. um, I love that she was ripping someone off. And then
Yeah,
she also
100%.
mentioned the fact that like the huts and oh, you're helping Boba Fett
Boba.
again. Yeah. Uh, and then obviously once he's looking for that chip for the Rook droid, and then we get the old veteran droid getting to live out his rebellious life again.
Mm-hmm.
Gets paired up with Mando as though he's not.
R5.
Yeah, he's not so sure about having him.
The amount of personality they give droids in the Star
It's
Wars
it's
universe
so
is
impressive.
it's unnecessary but perfect.
Yeah, it's like they get people so attached to these robots that only make noises and gestures. Um, which I mean, to be honest, so does a Grogu. He only makes
Yeah.
noises and gestures. Um, and then yeah, they fly off to Mandalore, and I love the little moment with them flying in, and he's explaining like he's not from Mandalore, he's from the nearest moon, and look, there's Bo-Katan's planet, and explaining this idea that Mandalores don't have a home anymore. That's why they need to know maps, so they know where they are all the time. It's this idea that they
Yeah.
don't really actually have a home anymore.
It was a really interesting way to see how he views being a Mandalorian.
Yes, it's this understanding now that like they are scattered and they're as long as they know where they are and understand maps, and that's essentially they always know where they are because they have nowhere. They're not based anywhere anymore, so
Exactly.
they're always traveling. Unless you're Bo-Katan and you have like some old castle that you
Yeah.
live alone in with a robot. So yeah, he goes to
She's
Mandalore.
just trying to be like Galaxy Batman. I don't know what your issue is.
um,
If I
them
had a
pulling up.
robot and I lived in a big castle like that, he'd be called Alfred, and no one's allowed to ask me any questions as to why,
uh, but I thought that
as God intended.
like we've touched on already, but like the visuals of pulling up into Mandalore, so stunning. It's so cool seeing this planet again.
Yeah.
And obviously we get him going spelunking, and he has a bit of a fight with some, I forget what the creatures are called, but
Creepy fucks.
notice that he still hasn't got the hang of the dark saber.
Yeah, he was really struggling.
With the then it's like that idea that like if you're not connecting with it, it's heavier. So he's just like, for whatever reason, he's not accepting of what the dark saber is meant to be to him. And he actually does more damage in that fight not using the dark saber. If you pay attention to that fight scene, he does more damage with his dagger and punches than he does with the dark saber. And you think, mate, you've got a lightsaber in your
Yeah.
hands. Should
You've
be
got a thing that
easy work.
literally just goes slice and dice. Can you
Yes.
cop on?
Yeah, can you hurry up and get done with the tutorial? Um
Yeah.
uh but then atmosphere's clear. They jump down into Mandalore, which in its destroyed state looks wild. Because we've
Yeah.
only seen it in the Clone Wars. This is the
Yeah.
first time we've seen it live action, obviously in a very different state. But I've already seen a thing online like people have they very closely gone back and looked at the Clone Wars,
Hmm.
and there's very significant like landmark that match up. like that whole sewer circle thing that they go down at the bottom.
Yeah,
There's that's shown in the Clone Wars, like in the center of the bustling city. Like
yeah,
they've been very smart. I don't know, it makes sense, but like shit matches up and it looks so good visually. Again with the CGI, like it looks stunning. Um, that weird mechanical creature.
yeah. I really didn't like that. Not in like a bad way. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was so ready for it to speak.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like, I don't know what it's meant. Like it's some weird.
I'll
It
be honest. When I saw like the eye inside it, I thought it was just like gonna be a dude in there, not
Yeah,
an
so did
alien who
I.
looks like just a smaller version of like this exoskeleton thing.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be like essentially just a brain in a jar. I get the
Yeah, exactly.
feeling, but yeah, the fucking trap with the Mandalorian helmet was caught me so off guard.
Yeah,
Um, and then Grogu jumps to the rescue.
as always.
Yeah, I loved his little like fucking
My little guy.
flip out of there and speed away to get back to the ship. And when he gets to the cave, that another one of them creatures jumps down. He's like, "Ah, fuck you! I've dealt with bigger things," and just flicks him out the way.
My guy is getting so strong. I I want Grogu to get his own helmet.
Like a mini. It might
Yes, and
happen
like and it has like the cutouts
for
around
the
the ears so that
years.
his ears poking out, and
It
then
could.
eventually he grows up to be wielding the dark saber.
I might like a just like a mini one.
No, 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 no. He becomes the rightful ruler of Mandalore as an adopted Jedi and as an adopted Mandalorian.
Be wild.
He walks in the footsteps um of the guy who did create the dark saber, Tar Vizsla,
Yes. Yeah.
as the first Jedi Mandalorian since him. And he
Yeah.
rules Mandalore and makes Mandalore great again, but not in a racist way, just in a make Mandalore great again.
you could be right. Who knows what Grogu's gonna
I'm
grow
I'm
up to
I'm
be?
just so down for it.
Uh,
Grogu for president 2024.
Now we can all agree that Mando is very badass.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but Bo-Katan is more badass.
When she picked up the dark saber in that rescue, she looks so clean with it. It's
Yeah.
unreal.
Well, it's the fight with the creatures in the cave. Like she's just like absolutely owns them using a little plasma shield and lasso rope on that. And the fact that she spotted them, um, she absolutely destroys them. And then yeah, she picks up the dark saber and absolutely rinses that mechanical creature and his giant robot version. And it's just like quite clearly knows what she's doing with that thing. And
Mm-hmm.
the stark contrast between how we saw Mando use it like a few moments earlier, just
Man's using it like a baseball bat.
like or more like a sledgehammer. Like he can barely
Yeah.
get it off the ground. Um, but I thought she was so fucking badass in this episode.
Also, I love how good her live action helmet is.
Yeah, her armor set looks
It's
sick.
perfect. It's so good.
Um,
Um,
trying
I
to think.
think
Oh,
as a result of Grogu coming to get her by himself
hmm,
to save Mando, and she's clearly a little bit interested in him, and the like in Grogu because like she's like, what's going on here? This is interesting. And now that she's had to come back to Mandalore anyway, I think she might have a vested interest in something, and I think she could end up being a bit of a antagonist later on. I think she might
okay,
try and
so
take the
I
dark saber
have
back.
a couple of theories.
Okay.
So to add to this, as we get to go to Mando goes down to the waters.
Yeah,
Um,
because the man is still so deep in this cult.
yeah, so she's like, "Fine, I'll help you out," and we get the big reveal. at the end of the episode. Mando ends up getting pulled underwater or falling under the water. It's hard to fucking tell. Because it was just a straight drop. He could have
Yeah.
just.
No, but he must have been pulled down
He
because you
had,
can't
yeah.
fall that fast. She was using
True.
a
True,
jetpack to
true.
catch up to him and struggling.
Yeah. He got pulled down, and Bo once again has to save him. And on the
Save
way
his
back
dumbass.
out, she hadn't realized going down, but she comes past what I'm sorry, it was what is a mythosaur,
Yeah.
the symbol of the Mandalorians, these giant creatures that long forgotten or long thought were long gone anyway.
Yeah. One
He's
was just having a nap down there.
just lurking in the waters.
Uh huh.
Now, it's very much a callback to season two, which you oh not season two, Book of Boba Fett, which you might remember the armorer in Book of Boba Fett when there's the Mando little 2.5 side series.
Yeah.
Mentions a thing where it's like the songs of eons past foretold of the mythosaur rising up, and that's the new age of Mandalore.
Yeah.
So I think this is quite clearly as a symbol of. I think Mandalore's coming. Like the Mandalore's going to get rebuilt. Like this is now the question is, Bo-Katan was clearly giving up on Mandalore. Was like
Mm-hmm.
had screw that, it's done. I've given up on that dream. I think seeing this obviously is going to
Might.
reignite this belief. Either my two theories are one, together they bring in the new age of Mandalore. No civil war. Her being ex-ruler for a short period of time, with Mando wielding the dark saber. The other thing is she now has the belief in Mandalore again, but they butt heads, or she wants to rule it. Mando doesn't, but he has the dark saber, and it's causing issues. And that, as always with Mandalorians, they end up in a civil war sort of thing. So similar to what you're saying about she's going to become an antagonist, I think there's potential of them either being a work together situation, or they're going to be at arms at each other.
Interesting.
Someone is going to ride that mythosaur.
That
I'm
would be
calling
very
it
cool.
now. Someone is going to ride that mythosaur.
Okay, I feel like we're missing out on something very important here.
Okay.
Grogu has shown an affinity for calming animals.
Which this is true. My theory is that Mando is going to be the one that rides it with Grogu. I
I feel like you're right that Bo-Katan and Mando are gonna like try and rebuild Mandalore, but I feel like it is all set up for Grogu to be the second Mandalorian Jedi wielding the dark saber and bringing Mandalore into its prosperous era.
think it is, but I just think like Grogu's way too young at the moment.
Yeah, but you got to remember, but if it takes them 20, 30, 40 years to build up Mandalore to what it
True.
once was, by then he'll be able to like know what's going on. And
True.
like then if he's that way inclined, he could rule for 800 years.
I think, yeah, no, I think you could be right on that sense. With Grogu's going to be an important part in this, and the future of Mandalore. I think for this season, I think it's going to be. Do you know what? I actually think this season we see Bo-Katan and Mando working together to
Mm,
collect and reconnect all the clans of Mandalore,
yeah,
and using. I'm going to call it now. There's going to be some like call for them all to come to Mandalore, and Mando's going to ride out to appear in front of them all on the mythosaur with the dark saber. I think maybe down the line, because we know there's future seasons, down the line there's going to be some civil war between Bo-Katan and
Of course.
Mando. Um, and yeah, maybe Grogu then becomes the. I love the reveal of the Mythosaur.
Oh,
And
so cool.
so well done. And
And next week's is gonna be spicy.
well, yeah, like there's. I don't know where, because he's obviously going to go back to the armorer and be like, "Yo, I
Mm-hmm.
bathed in the waters. By the way, the Mythosaur's about."
Yeah.
Um,
I almost died in them waters, and I met the Mythosaur. He's aight.
so there's going to be something. I think that might be where the conflict is this time. Bo-Katan will now believe in rebuilding again, but then she's not going to like that the cult, or she's going to like be more lenient now on the, or like, I don't know. There's something. There's like three parties. There's Bo-Katan, which is just she wants Mandalore back. You got the armorer, who's like the cultists, and then you got Mando stuck in the middle, who well,
Yeah. And I think the issue is we see he's still so deeply ingrained in the cult.
yeah.
I think that's what's going to be causing the problem between Mando and Bo. Is they're going to start rebuilding Mandalore back in the image of this cult, which is clearly quite an extreme cult as well, based on Bo's reaction to them.
Well, it seems like it's a very old. It's what built Mandalore up in the old days, but then they slowly modernized and progressed away from it, like most religions and
Yeah,
cultural things.
separation of church and state.
Yeah, because she talks about when she was a kid, she went and did the whole ritual in the water as more as just a front to the older people and the older generation, just to please
Yeah,
them. So it's this idea of she understands it, but she sees it's like the old ways. And I think, yeah, you're right. Maybe there's going to be some button heads because she doesn't want it to go back in that direction.
yeah. Let's not go backwards. Going backwards is what caused our problems.
Yeah. But overall, amazing episode. I'm loving it. I'm
Okay.
very excited.